Good morning and welcome to EXSIN Live. As you can see, I have an empty seat here. If you live in Oklahoma, you know that we had one monster storm come through about 2 hours ago. So the roads are a wreck. Some pieces of house are a wreck. We're praying for you guys that had damage, and we hope that you are doing well. I'm going to stall for a few minutes as Phil gets here. He's on the road rapidly trying to get to the studio for today's version of EXSIN Live. And today we're going to talk about, I'm going to ask you a question. I got to wait, Phil, but I can't. Do you have a selling system? Do you have a system that helps you sell your products? And can you quantify what you're doing day in and day out? And do you know what's working on your marketing and advertising and what's not? That's what we're going to talk about today. We have spent the last 3 EXSIN Lives talking about process and systems and what you need to do as a business owner to really set your small business apart and help it grow. The difference between you and Walmart is a plan and a system. If you're a restaurant, a small family restaurant, the difference between you and becoming Chili's or Applebee's or pick your favorite chain restaurant is the process and the system. If you're a small hometown hardware store, the difference between you becoming what you are today and the Lowe's or Home Depot that they are is a process and a system. And the sooner you realize that an owner and you pull the stick back on your organization and climb up to 30,000 feet and look down at what it looks like and where you can provide positive input, you're not going to make that difference. If you're doing tactical stuff day in and day out and not focusing on the entrepreneur piece, the strategy piece, and not focusing on the management piece and making sure the right people in place and not focusing on the culture piece, you cannot build that incredible organization. So I want to give a shout out. We're waiting on Phil today. So Molly Cottle Hash Slingers is having their grand opening today on the west side of town out in Yukon. So congrats on a great store and a great opening, a great new business for Oklahoma City. The ribbon cutting is right now. So congratulations to you guys. Hopefully the rain didn't slow it down too much, but we're super proud of you. I wish I had a joke or something to tell so I could talk about, that stuff before Phil gets here. But again, back what we're going to talk about is systems. And the first question I'm going to ask is, the thing you need to be thinking about is, what are you doing to get people to come through your door and buy from you? Do you have a marketing plan? Do you have a marketing strategy that's bringing them in the door? Do you do word of mouth? Are you doing a referral-based business? What is that business? I'm going to ask you right now, to write that down. What is that process? What are you doing? And how do you get people to come in your door? And we're going to ask this question with Phil and get his insight on it in a second. The second thing is, once you get them in the door, how do you get them to buy? I mean, what pain are you solving for them that they're coming in to solve by coming into your store? Now, here's an interesting thing. If you have a retail store, are you tracking what's selling and what's not selling? Do you have dead space in your store? I mean, do you have a wall in your store where you have a ton of stuff on the wall that doesn't sell and it's taking up space where you could expand items that do sell? If you do, you need to look at that. If you're not tracking your inventory management and what's selling and what's not, you need to start that right now. So inventory management, what's selling, what's not selling? What suppliers do you need to get rid of in your organization to grow your organization and focus on what your customers need and what's solving your customers' pain points? Next question. You got people in the door, they're buying your stuff. How are you going to keep them coming back? What are you doing to grow your audience? My wife and I had a great conversation last night about social media advertising and digital marketing. And one of the most underutilized features to keep people coming back and growing your business that is out there is a check-in button on Facebook. If you would offer a small discount for people to check in at your store when they show up on Facebook, it's going to go out to all their friends that Joey is at your store. And Joey's friends are going to ask Joey, hey, how'd you like that store? What did you find? Why are you shopping there? What's the coolness about it? And then they may come and check out your store and they'll like and check into your store. And that grows your audience exponentially coming to your store and gives you free visibility for your organization. So, if you want people coming back, you want to get people in the door, think about how you can use the Facebook check-in button or the Facebook like button when people come in your store to let their friends know they're shopping at your place of business and they're doing business with you. So we've talked about all these things at a tactical level. What are you doing to build your plan? What plan do you have in place to A, bring people in the door through marketing, B, close the deal when they get in the store because you're solving their pain points, and C, keep them coming back? I want you to write down those three things. What are you doing to bring them in the door? What are you doing to solve their problem? They want to buy your product. And what are you giving them to keep them coming back? Build that plan. The next thing is, after you build the plan with those three areas, what's your script? How are you scripting this for your employees so they know exactly what to say and exactly what problems to solve? Let's say we have a client that has a lady that works with her that is amazing at pairing foods and helping customers, helping upsell products in her store. Amazing. She has a script, she has a process she goes through, and she is probably one of the best in the grocery business for upselling products that I've seen. They come in and they buy some bread. She said, hey, have you tried this jam? Or have you tried this? It goes very well with this type of bread. And people go, I haven't tried it. Let's try it. So automatically getting the upsell in the store because she has a process and a script to go through. Last thing, you got the script, you got the plan, write that process down, put it all on one sheet of paper so your employees know exactly what to do. That is it. That's all it takes to build a selling system. It's not really, really hard. And what we find is it doesn't matter if you're a consultant. It doesn't matter if you're selling a product. It doesn't matter if you're selling a service. You need to build those things into your sales process. You need to track them. We worked with a company a few years ago that was in the distribution business, large warehouse distributing to a number of stores across Oklahoma, Texas, Missouri, and Arkansas. And they were really, really good salesmen. They were amazing sales team. But they'd gotten comfortable and they'd forgotten about the old school rule of calls, prospects, suspects. Who are they talking to? How are they growing their market share? And we implemented a simple process for them. It was simply this: identify who all the potential customers are in the area, suspects. Go talk to them. Reach out to each one of them on your runs to talk to your other stores. See if they're interested in your product. See what problems you can solve for them. Drive them from suspects to prospects. We asked for them to do 50 sales calls a week, okay, of different people. What happened was there was a 33% increase in sales over the first quarter. 33% increase in sales. Could you imagine that for your business? They put a process in place. We tracked their call activity. We tracked responses from their prospects. Then we looked at close rates, and guess what? They were closing about 12 to 20% of the people they went and talked to. So they added 12 to 20% new customers with 33% increase in revenue over the period of time. That's what happens when you build a process for your sales team to follow. And if you don't have a sales team, build the process for you to follow. So when you do have a sales team, you hand them a playbook and they go execute. Speaking of that, it's funny. We talk about processes and playbooks and everything else. And we go, as business owners, we go, man, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But if you ever played football, basketball, soccer, you had a playbook. You had certain ways to set up, and you had certain numbers you call on the field to run certain plays, and you practice those plays over and over again. And your coaches would quantify how many yards you gained on a certain play, or how many stops you got on a certain defensive scheme, or how many goals you score, how many baskets you score by running certain different schemes during the game. And then based on the competition and what they were doing, you would adjust your scheme to go there. Why aren't you doing the same thing for your business? You see, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If we're 8 years old and a coach is teaching us that we're going to run a dive right, and you're going to block here and you're going to do this, and the running back's going to go here, the quarterback's going to hand the ball to the tailback, and the fullback's going to make the block, and you're going to get 5 yards. And we write it on our chalkboard and we show it to the team, and they run the play exactly. Why aren't you doing that with your sales team? Why don't you have a sales playbook that they use, they go through and sell stuff? Is it because it's too hard? Is it because you're tired? Is it because you don't know what to do? It's funny. Everything that we learn to do in life that's successful, we probably learned as a child, right? So that's what the basis of this whole selling system process is. It's a matter of thinking back to your childhood, thinking back to sports you played, things you did where you were giving a playbook and said, follow this. If you do this, you'll be successful. If you use this foot and you step this way, you'll be successful. If you don't, you probably won't. But that's the beauty of building a sales system. It's like running an offensive playbook. It's like running a defensive playbook. It's like running a basketball scheme. It's like running a soccer team. Everybody has a role and a position. They know exactly what to do. But unfortunately, many of you forget about that process and what to do, and you forget how to do it, frankly. So I encourage you to build your selling system. And if it's not something you want to do, it's something you really need to think about doing, because you're hurting yourself and you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off, which is not cool. So should we tell a joke while waiting for Phil? Who's here? Who do I got here today? Jump in on the comments and say hello. Who's here with us today? I see you up there smiling at us. We're waiting on Phil slowly but surely to get here today. Well, in a few minutes, we're going to have Phil's take on this whole selling system process, because I think he's going to have some great insight on what a selling system look at, because he is the sales guru. And he is going to bring us some great information and ideas about how to and what we should do to improve business and sales. So a question for you, and if you watch the video later, I'd love for you to comment below. What has been your biggest sales challenge over the last year, and what are you doing to overcome it? That would be a great comment for you to put in the comments if you watch the video later today or tomorrow or even right now, and let us know so we can try to help you. Oh, I hear the door. I think Phil's here. Phil, we're talking about selling systems.
I've been watching it.
Oh, good. Well, he's been paying attention.
Freaking Monday.
The anchor of the team finally showed up.
I'm an idiot.
Well, I told him that's probably because of the weather.
No, I'm an idiot. I called Dave to talk about another client, and as I'm getting ready to talk to him, my phone goes off, and I thought, we've been doing this forever at 9 o'clock. I don't know why I had myself convinced it was at 9:30 today.
That's all right.
So sorry.
Selling systems.
Yeah, they're kind of important. What all have we covered?
So what I've kind of asked the question. So how do you get people selling system? How do you get people in the door?
Yeah.
How do you get them to buy when they're ready to buy and when they come to your store? And how do you keep them coming back? What's your system to do that? What's a script? How do you build that process? I was thinking about some of the people we work with, and they have dead inventory in their stores.
Right.
People take up space because people don't want to buy that stuff in their store, but they're being polite and leaving it there. Right.
Right.
It's no different, service stuff. When you go out and make a sales call, what's your script to get them to want to do business with you? How's your sales call process?
Yeah, there's definitely distinct. I mean, it depends on, what you're selling, obviously, to Dave's point. If you're in more of a retail setting, or you're at a location where people come to you, and so there's two ways to get people to come to your store. It's word of mouth, and it's marketing, right? Advertising, getting people to know where you are and what you do, and and all that good stuff. So there's that type of selling. And that's what I've always said is, there's an art to when people come into your store on how do you handle them? How do you make them feel? Are they happy they're there? Do you treat them right? I waited an hour and 20 minutes to get lunch yesterday. And I'm watching all these other people get their food that came in after us. And Dave knows that I don't do well in those situations. No. And
were you in Europe?
No. Oh. And I felt like it.
Yeah,
and the young lady kept telling me, and bless her heart, she was just trying to do the best she could. She said, we only have so many cooks, and they started hearing all the reasons why. And finally, I said, okay, that's fine. Finally, I said, well, if that's all accurate, how come everybody around us has their food? Of course, she was caught. My point in that is that she had forgot to put her order in. She got busy, got sidetracked. That stuff happens. So I think number one in sales is you got to be honest with the people you're dealing with. If you muck something up, like this morning, I thought it was at 9:30. I had myself convinced it's 9:30. It was 9. I'm an idiot. I mean, I know it's at 9 o'clock. That's on me. It is what it is. You own it and you move forward. But once you're in there, if you're in a retail setting, it's about the experience, in my opinion. It's about good follow-up. If you tell people you're going to do stuff, do it when you say you're going to do it. Like be here at 9 o'clock. If you're doing more of a service sell, so let's say you're in the insurance industry or you're selling pharmaceuticals or you're whatever it is. It could be pipe and the pipe, where you're going out and you're out hunting for your clients, right? Marketing still plays a part in that, and that's digital, that's traditional, that's all these things. Referrals, word of mouth still plays a part of that, but also how do you approach people? I am of the belief, and there's a lot of people that are traditional salespeople that cringe when I say this. The days of going out and making 20 cold calls a day are dead. I'll say it one more time. They're dead. If you have a sales manager telling you that your whole plan, I'm not saying don't incorporate there's nothing wrong with going out and walking in and introducing yourself to businesses, but it's how do you go about it? It used to be you would walk in and everybody had their swag. They had their pens and their pads and their calendars and their cups and their mugs and all their stuff, and they're giving all this stuff to people. And, there's 10 sales reps doing the same thing in different products every day. And these people at some point are going, enough already. I've got to get work done. Every time I turn around, there's another one of you guys or gals coming in the door. So you got to be smart about how you're approaching it. It requires, everybody in the world is so much more educated on everything than they used to be, right? Everybody knows more about products and services than they ever have because there's so much information out there. We all know this. So use those tools to your advantage to do some due diligence and to prepare yourself on what's the best way to approach these folks. So leverage your network of people. The world's a tiny, tiny place. The longer you live, the more you will learn to know that is a fact. It is a little place.
You'll also know how many bridges you've burnt.
Yes, you will.
Yes, you will. It's an interesting thing there. And one of the things I want to add in here too is, what are you doing to differentiate yourself when you walk in the door? What makes you different from the guy that came in there 5 minutes or gal that came in there 5 minutes earlier? If you're not different or better, then you're wasting your time.
Well, and
that's where system and a script comes into play.
I think there is, I think how Matt said, I detest a salesperson whose only answer is, I'll have to get back to you on that. There are certain things, but to Matt's point, that shouldn't be your go-to on everything. I have to get back to you on that. Actually teach that in sales training. Well, you don't have to know everything. If they ask you a question you don't know, just tell them you got to get back with you on that. They teach that. How about we invest some time up front and actually know our product, actually know our service, actually know what we're doing? There's a crazy concept, right? But be a problem solver. One of the things that's worked well for me over the years is trying to find out what somebody's biggest concern or problem is and trying to help them solve it without expecting anything in return. You're getting an opportunity to show them that you know what you're doing. You get an opportunity to be helpful, and everybody likes helpful people, and then it's time. You mix knowledge, you mix sincerity, you mix transparency, you mix all those things together, and you mix it in with a little bit of time, and good things happen. I've had clients I've done business with that were fairly quick, that, to be honest, I really probably didn't earn the business, but for whatever reason, the timing was right for the person that was buying, and they absolutely just said, yeah, I need that service and you're here, so I'm going to give you a shot. And then I've had those clients that I've earned it, but I've had to earn it for years before I got an opportunity to help them. And I can tell you every time, the ones that you have to invest something in to get are the ones that stick around. The ones that you spend your time doing, like Matt says, do some critical thinking and some actual problem solving. And Matt's right. One of the real failures in our education system is we don't teach critical thinking and problem solving anymore. That hit home. Or die. Matt said, I'm guessing when you're dropped by a gray-haired pilot into a hot zone, you learn problem-solving skills real quick. Yes, or you die. But
you have two choices.
Right. But the big thing for me in sales, it's about education, it's about being sincere, it's understanding the game you're in. Part of the reason why sales is so tough is people quit before they get to the good stuff in sales because it's tough. You know, I tell the joke. I sold a lot my first couple years in sales. I sold cars, I sold golf clubs, I sold guns, I sold everything I owned to pay my bills. There is a period of just you're paying your dues, you're learning your craft, you're establishing relationships with people. It takes time. That's why sales is a tough job to jump into cold. I mean, it's tough. You know, it's not because you don't have the ability to be a good salesperson. It's because you haven't had the time to allow all that to grow and to develop to get to where you can consistently have a good flow of business.
And this is the key point for a business owner to have a selling system to hand to their new sales team. If you want to accelerate that learning curve, hand them a book, a playbook, a script to follow they can learn, and then they can go execute. It's just like anything in life. If you have the instructions, you follow them, you're going to build that part a lot faster than if you're figuring it out on the fly. So that's where understanding your product as the owner, how it gets out the door, the best way to connect and sell with people, give that to your sales team. Give them that advice, give them those nuggets, that script you use to help them grow. I mean, I had a great call with the head of sales for ULA 2 days ago, and her knowledge and insight she shared with me was absolutely fabulous. Gina was amazing. And she shared some stuff with me on things we're working about that I had never thought of, but she's an expert in this area. And she's pouring into us to help us better serve our personal development product we have. But it's all about the process. It's all about the system, and it's all about going and doing the work. It's that simple.
Well, and what I would add too, as the leader of an organization, if you're the owner of the business or if you're in charge of the sales team, you got to have realistic expectations for salespeople. You can't take a person right out of college and expect them in 2 or 3 months to be out there closing deals left and right. If you're now you can, if it's more of a retail setting, obviously, but I'm talking about for service type products or where you're going out and you're trying to sell a service and a product, but there's a service connection to it. It's going to take some time for these people to establish good relationships. The other thing is most business owners, many business owners who don't understand sales, they struggle with sales simply because they don't understand it, or even if they understand it, they ignore it. They say, well, they've got everything they need. We've got good products. We've got a good service. They need to go sell it. That's what I pay them for. Yes, that is what you pay them for, but you've also got to support them, train them, teach them, and have realistic expectations of what somebody can do. I mean, there's no magic one in sales. I as a guy that people my whole life have told me, well, you're a natural at sales. You're just a natural. That's bullshit. There's no such thing as 100% natural at anything. It takes time to develop relationships. Another little pearl, if you will, that I've learned over the years, if you want to be great at sales, great at it, you got to become comfortable with telling people things they don't want to hear. And then they're going to do whatever they want with it, but you cannot change the fact that you have a responsibility as the salesperson title is a terrible title. I've always said, what you really should be is a client advocate or a customer advocate, or be somebody that's there that's trying to help you solve problems. If all you're doing is trying to sell a product, whether the people need it or not, you're going to struggle in sales.
Yep.
Everybody is not a candidate for your products. And everybody out there, and I'm going to pick on the insurance industry for a second. I've heard over the years so many good intending sales managers say this: everybody needs what you sell. That's not true. It's not true.
I don't need a jackhammer.
I mean, it's just not true. I don't care who you are. Everybody doesn't need everything that you sell. It's just not true. So you've got to do a good market plan. You got to understand your market. You got to understand your prospect base. You got to understand your products. You got to understand your services. And then you got to execute every day on those things to generate this unbelievable energy that comes out of that, to where you're not out there looking for your next sell so you can pay your mortgage, because you've done a good job laying the foundational work to where you have a constant flow of deals. That's how it works. There's no magic. There's no shortcuts. Anybody that tells you there is, don't walk away from them, run from them, because they're selling you a bill of goods. It requires effort and consistency in execution. If you can't do those things, you're going to struggle in sales.
It requires a system.
Requires a system. Everything I'm talking about is a system, is a playbook. You know, when I first got into sales years ago, I worked with a company that had a business plan called the 60-60-30 model. Dave will tell you, we still use that today.
Yep.
You know, people are too concerned about, it's got to be my system, or it's got to be what I think. No, find something that works and use it consistently. If you do that, then good things will happen. If you don't do that, then you're going to get average results at best your entire career.
That's a fact, Jack. I mean, I don't know if you heard of it. I was talking about one of the companies we work with increase their sales by 33% just by implementing that process, building the suspect prospect list, holding them accountable to sales calls, getting updates every week on how that's going. I mean, if you own a company, you follow just that simple process with your sales team, you're going to see great success. Give them a script, give them a process, make sure they know what problem they're solving for your clients, tell them to identify who their clients are and go get them, and have that conversation and be there and befriend them, become friends, know, like, and trust, and your business will grow.
And do this also. Allow them to be who they are within that system. Yep. Don't try to make everybody the same. People aren't the same. Anybody that's worked with me for any period of time knows that I despise paperwork. I hate it. True?
If he has to get on a computer or write anything, I've seen computers fly across the room. He doesn't like that.
Grumpy Phil shows up really quick when I'm asked to do that stuff. Can I do it? Sure.
I have protective glass around my desk.
Can I do it? Absolutely. Do I like to do it? No, I don't. So guess what the result is? I suck at it. And now you can say, well, you just got to have enough discipline. No, that's stupid. You can have somebody else do that for you. Go do the things that you're great at. Go do the stuff that you're passionate about. You know, that's the stuff that you gotta absolutely pay attention to. You know, that's where excellence comes from. Pete Rose, who I'm not arguing whether he should be in the hall or he shouldn't be in the hall, or if he's a good human being or if he's a bad human being. Can we all agree that if you hit a ball over 4,000 times between the white lines, you're a pretty good baseball player, right?
You can't argue that he was a good baseball player.
Right.
That's no argument.
And this is my whole point. Yeah. So he would freaking go out for 2 hours before every game and drill and drill and drill and drill and drill. And they would always say, well, you're good at that. Well, yeah, that's why I'm good at it. I mean, I'm focused on what I'm good at. You know, he's not worried about these other things. You know, you got to be self-aware. You got to know what you're good at. You got to know what you enjoy doing. And you got to do those things within a system consistently. So let your people be who they are within your system. Okay. They can't each have their own system because that typically doesn't work. Nope. They can tweak the system to fit them, right? They can do little nuanced things, but they got to run that system and they got to do it consistently. If you do that, you know, it's like water against rock, right? What happens when enough water presses against rock long enough? You know, water wins every time, right? So just understand that it's a time thing, it's a consistency thing, and it's an execution thing. You've got to go out and execute on your system and your strategy, or you're going to struggle. I mean, you're going to struggle. And I wish I could say, hey, do these 4 things and you're going to sell 70% of your deals. Doesn't exist. There's a million books out there trying to tell you that they exist, They don't exist.
I'll offer this. If you consistently execute a successful system consistently, your sales will increase up to 30%.
Yeah, we guarantee that.
I'll put that on the table. If you build a system that you know works, and you teach your team how to use it, and they consistently execute that system, your sales will increase up to 30%.
I had a guy one time.
That's the 60-60-30 rule.
Yeah, that's all it is. I have a guy that was telling one time. He said, I increased sales for my team 10,000%. I go, well, you must be a new sales team. Well, yeah. So they weren't comparing it against anything. Well, yeah, it's easy to compare. If you got $0 into something and you sell it for $1 million, what's your rate of return?
$1 million.
$1 million. Sounds great.
Sounds
great, but you had nothing in it. So, I mean, it's still good. You still be proud. You're doing something right, but you had nothing in it. Okay, so don't buy into the BS. I'll take a good 30% growth rate year in and year out all day long, and after a 20-year period, I'll win every time. But that's part of the challenge, and that's also part of the reason why you got to have a system, because this also can get very boring.
Yep.
I mean, so if you don't have a system, there's nothing that's checking you. There's nothing to say, okay, I got to do these things today, and then guess what? Tomorrow's Thursday, I got to do those things again. And then the day after that's Friday, I got to do those things again. Okay? What does a surgeon do? The surgeon doesn't get in there, at least I hope they don't, if they're operating on me, and they're doing open heart surgery and go, I'm going to try a different way this time. I'm just going to see how this works. I mean, think about how stupid that is, right? There's a reason. I mean, surgeons have processes. Pilots have processes, right? The EOD guys that work with bombs, ladies that work with bombs,
they have a system.
They have a system. They have a process. Okay, I know everybody saw the Hurt Locker. I know everybody thinks it's a guy with a pocket knife that goes out and just starts cutting wires and that wants to die. That's not true. They all have a process that follow. So sales should be no different. You should have a process for everything.
And that goes into what we've been talking about the last 3 weeks in the show. Now, I want to close with this, Phil. Coffee's for closers, right?
Coffee's for closers.
The old school guys, coffee's for closers. No,
coffee's for closers.
Get out of that mentality. You're there to help your customer build better relationships.
Steak knives. Second place, steak knives.
And grow your business. But you do it by building relationships. With that, build your system, go execute, do great things.
And I'll be better. I'll be on time.
And Phil will be here next week. You might have to listen to me ramble for 15 minutes.
I'll be here at 6 o'clock, sitting at this chair waiting.
With that, Dave and Phil, we are out of here. Maybe we're out of here.